one game, one passage, and then 5 to 10 logical reasoning. If that's too much though, sometimes people when they first start out, all they can do in one day is one game. Because the game takes them 30 minutes and then reviewing the game takes another 45 and they're like, okay, that's enough, my brain is fried, right? If that's the case, then you do that game that day, and the next day you do one reading comp passage and 5 to 10 LR. Within a couple weeks, you might be able to do all three on one day. And then you just let the demon decide. Like, it will figure out what games and what passages and what logical reasoning questions to give you. You don't need to think about that. If you're scoring below the 160s, I would only take a full-length test every other weekend, just because they're not as efficient to review. But once you start scoring in the 160s or higher, then I would take one probably every weekend. Not that you have to. What you can do is you can alternate these every 2 days or every 3 days, do a full-length timed section. And that's not a test, that's just a 35-minute section. There's basically 3 modes of study. There's drilling, there's timed sections, and there's timed tests. And you want to do, especially at the beginning, a lot of drilling because it's targeted and it's easy to review. But then you want to bring in 35-minute sections and then occasionally bring in practice tests. They're necessary. We have to do those practice tests, but they're also like not the most effective way to review because you have to do so much work and then you're kind of exhausted and you can't review until the next day. And it's just like that disconnect kind of undercuts their value in terms of learning. All we're doing is we're trying to narrow the time between doing a question and reviewing it. Because the faster you get feedback, the easier it is for you to learn from it. Right? Like if there was a 24-hour delay between touching a hot stove and feeling burned, we would be pretty bad at avoiding hot stoves. Right? Like people would touch it and then the next day they'd be like, damn, there would be a lot of problems. They'd be like, oh, was that the hot stove? I don't even remember touching it. But when you do a question and you get it wrong, with drilling, it's like you get that immediate feedback, right? And that kick allows you to learn and figure out what's going on. A timed section's a little bit more delayed. A timed test is even more because a lot of people just don't review it till the next day. You start with this as your default assumption and then you tweak it to your situation